We are back with another episode of Mock Draft Mondays, and this time I am in the hot seat, and I drafted from the 7th spot, and you know what? It was one of the more difficult spots I've had to draft from so far, so let's find out if I did good, bad, or somewhere in the middle on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominick Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my co-host, my better half, my partner in crime, Matthew Ahne, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ahne. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification each time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio end, like a platform like Apple or Spotify, that allows us 5-star ratings and reviews. We would truly, truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And lastly, but most importantly to us and you guys this time of year, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth, personalized experience. Do text messaging alerts that are going to go right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And this time of year, you'll be getting our 2025 rankings, sleepers, breakouts, and busts, and so much more. So if you want to give us a chance on the Subtext platform, you can find the link for it in our bio, wherever you're listening or watching, or you can find it on any of our social media platforms. And guys, Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started today. All right, folks, we are back with another mock draft episode, and as I mentioned at the top, we I'm doing the 7th spot this time, and it was pretty difficult for me. I will say, out of everyone that we've done so far, and I've been hitting the mock drafts heavy. Drafting from the middle, for me anyway, is a little bit more difficult. But with that being said, I'm going to run through the roster real quick, and then we will break down, how I think I did. First, I took Mookie Betts at that 7th spot. I love the versatility, that he brings. I took Acuna second. Like I said, let's just run through the roster, then I'll give more of a breakdown. I took my first pitcher in Corbin Burns next at the 3rd round. 4th round, I took Kyle Schwarber. 5th round, I took Teoscar Hernandez. 6th round, I took Luis Castillo. 7th round, I took Tyler Glasnow. 8th round, I took Jordan Westbrook. 9th round, I took Vinny Pasquantino. 9th round, I took Andres Munoz. 10th round, I took Roki Sasaki. 11th round, I took Luis Garcia Jr. Then I took Nico Horner. After that, Kodai Senga. After that, Jordan Romano. After that, Tyler O'Neill. After that, Josh Lowe. After that, Luis Rengifo. Then I took Christian Encarnacion Strand, Clark Schmidt, Porter Hodge, Jesus Luzardo, and I finished it up with my catcher in Ivan Herrera. All right, now let me run through this, and I'll give a little bit of a breakdown on, my decision-making as I ran through this process here. So at the top, as I mentioned, and I got into a little bit, I took Mookie Betts first. This is a tough spot. It's honestly, you can't go wrong here, I feel, at 7, right? Because it's just the options there, they're all kind of similar. I did another version of this draft where I took Gunnar Henderson, who went next in this draft. I actually did. Jose Ramirez, I think, is a strong pick there. Kyle Tucker is great. You can't hate on the upside of Fernando Tatis. I probably wouldn't take any of the pitchers there, and that's kind of where I start to say, if you're taking anybody else at that point, maybe think about a little bit more. But those, about 5-6 names I mentioned there, they can all go, at the 7th spot, and I'm not really going to be mad at you for that. But like I said, I just love the versatility. Probably going to play Mookie at 2nd most times in this lineup. I love what he brings to the table. That Dodgers team's going to be deadly this year. Let's move on to this next pick. This could be the league-winning pick, or it could potentially be the worst pick of the whole draft, Ronald Acuna Jr. You take big swings, and I think that's what I did here. I like taking these big swings, if they pay off. Like I said, it's a league-winning pick, getting Ronald Acuna in the 2nd round. He could be the best player in the league. He could kind of look like he did last year before the injury, where he wasn't really playing well. Or we see the version of Acuna where, he came back last time from the injury and, he stole a lot of bases, didn't hit for a lot of power. Counting stats probably still should be good on that Atlanta team as long as he's out there on the diamond. When the rest of that team's healthy, they got a bunch of big bats there. They're looking for a comeback year this year in Atlanta. And, like I said, I took the big swing there in the second round. Third round, played things a little bit differently here. You usually see Matt and I go 3 straight bats, which is, the strategy I like to implore when, doing drafts. But I just felt like I like to get one of those anyway, my personal rankings, which you can get if you subscribe to us on Subtext. I like to get one of my top, I want to say like 6, 7 guys. Otherwise then I kind of feel like I'm playing a risky game at that point. So I took Burns, didn't think he was going to make it back to me or any of my top guys, which they didn't. So it turned out to be pretty smart there. Then in the fourth round, a player that I normally don't take too much, I took Kyle Schwarber. I felt like with Mookie and Acuna, you're going to get a good amount of speed. The runs and, RBI should be solid there. Batting average should be solid between Betts and Acuna. So I needed the pop, the 40 home runs, Kyle Schwarber's batting average was a little bit better last year. I felt like he plays there. I felt like he plays in this kind of lineup. After that, I get to Teoscar Hernandez. We've talked about him to a crazy amount. Not really going to get too much into Teoscar Hernandez, except he's back with the Dodgers. I expect similar results to last year. Actually, next, this is Matt and I have talked about him a little bit. Luis Castillo, a great pick here. I'm actually going to pull up exactly where I took him.
Sixth round.
Yeah, 6th round for Luis Castillo. I think that's great value on somebody. We know who he is. Mid to low 3s ERA guy, solid whip, around that K per 9. Sometimes he gets over it. I think he's a great number 2 starting pitcher in a 12-man league. After that, grab another starting pitcher, Tyler Glasnow. He's supposedly healthy coming into spring training. Quotes from him in November and the team saying that he's going to be ready to go. Hey, listen, if he can give you 150 innings, he's going to be a top 20 starting pitcher. And to get him as number 3, I think is absolutely great value on a guy like him. Next up, I grabbed Jordan Westburg, another guy Matt and I have talked about a lot. I think if you listen to any, fantasy baseball podcast out there, he's going to be one of the breakout players of 2025. So make sure you get a couple of shares of Jordan Westburg this year. Great young bat, a lot of talent there. Next up, Vinny P. The Pasquatch. He's breakout year primed, right? He just has to stay healthy. He's starting to get a little bit of that injury, prone tag on him after not being able to do it for a few years. Like I said, just another guy needs to stay on the diamond. Has 30 home run upside with like a 280 batting average, and that Royals team, another prime team that should be really good in 2025. Him, Bobby Witt carrying the torches over there. They need Vinny P. They need Vinny P in KC, and so does my fantasy teams this year. After that, I grabbed my first closer, Andres Munoz. Started to break out last year, then, fumbled the bag a little bit, but, really rebounded at the end of the year, grabbed his job back. And I don't think there's going to be much competition this year. I think Munoz kind of just takes the job, and he has top 5 closer upside. I like him there, to be a number 1 closer for sure. Then I grabbed Roki Sasaki. I think this is value on him, as my SP4. I believe I have him ranked as the SP3 territory. So this is just great value on, a starting pitcher who comes over to the States and, teams haven't really seen him yet. I'm expecting a lot of success from Sasaki. After that, I grabbed Luis Garcia. The Luis Garcia Nico Horner combo. I played to that's my numbers this year. Those are my numbers. It's Luis Garcia, Nico Horner, man. I'm probably gonna have a lot of shares of them. I love the value. Luis Garcia with the 2020 threat. Nationals should be a better team. I believe he's expected to lead off for them. And hey, listen, he had 280 last year, so I'll take it. Horner. News. Matt, I don't even know if we've even spoken about this yet. Nico Horner, I did hear that he might be injured coming into spring training. We're going to see how that plays out. My shares might actually go down on that. But speed, runs, batting average is what you get with him. Going to try and speed run a little bit here, as we move on. I took Kodai Senga next. I could take the risk there. I felt like my rotation was fairly stable up until that point. Then I grab Matt's boy Jordan Romano. I think he's gonna grab that Phillies closer role and just run away with it. So grabbing him as a closer number 2 is great. Tyler O'Neill, a little bit more power, to get behind Kyle Schwarber. Goes to Baltimore. They're moving the wall in over there, 30 feet in left field. So that's going to play for Tyler O'Neill. Grab Josh Lowe, another injury-prone outfielder. I hope one of the 2 of them work out. Lowe's got 2020 upside over there. Hopefully, he can be healthy this year and play for that Tampa team. Luis Rengifo, one of my favorite Swiss Army knives, has a lot of eligibility, a little bit of pop, a little bit of speed, a little bit of batting average. Runs and RBIs might not be too great, That's why I grabbed this next guy, CES, Christian Encarnacion Strand. A lot of pop, a lot of RBI potential, a lot of batting average potential with that Reds team. Really good. Round out my rotation with Clark Schmidt and Jesus Luzardo. Love the upside of Clark Schmidt. Was having a breakout year last year before he got hurt. Did finish the season fairly well, too. Luzardo goes over to Los Phillies. Matt and I are drafting him everywhere, so you should, too, with this value. Then we have Porter Hodge, timeshare over with Presley in Chicago, but I think he'll lead the way. Then I take my favorite sleeper, who I'm going to talk about more in a little bit, Ivan Herrera, a catcher for those Cardinals. He's going to be great, and I'm going to talk about him a little bit more, and then Matt's going to come at me after that, and he's going to, you know what I'm saying, if I did a good, bad job, medium, we'll see, and that and more coming up next.
Okay, Super Bowl 59 is here in 1 game, 2 games, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting with FanDuel Sportsbook, right? Whether you're predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it even easier to get in the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets the same game as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from every kickoff to final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl. Isn't that just sweet? That's the icing on the cake. Download the app today and head over to FanDuel.com and get started today. Bet $5 and you can win. You can win up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And you know what? Look, we're going to place a little bet here. So the more I see this, the more I can only kind of predict that, Philly's probably going to lose. We're going to see a three-peat. I hate it. And with that, I'm going to bet the under on the score for Philly. And you know what? That is just going to lead to defensive things. Jones is going to be lighting them up. Bet the under. I have a feeling Philly's not going to score that many points. That being said, guys, FanDuel official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And all right. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Now, look, you want to win your leagues. The only way you're going to do that is becoming a member of the Diamond Club, because you're going to get our waiver. You're going to get our rankings. You're going to get our sleepers breakout bust, just like Dom mentioned at the top of the show. Plus, there's a little bit kicker. You can actually ask us some questions and get a little bit more of the insight, thought process, and extra stats that we feel should be highlighted from the show. Check us out. You get a free 2 weeks. Links in the description below. But without further ado, Dom, do you have any final notes before I talk about whether you did good or bad or anything else?
Yes, just one last thing, if I may. I actually just actually drafted this guy just because I wanted to talk about him a little bit. We haven't highlighted him yet. He'll make one of my sleeper breakouts, one of those lists at some point. It's Ivan Herrera, the catcher for the St. Louis Cardinals. This kid's good. If you haven't heard about him, he played 72 games last year for the Cardinals. He had 229 at-bats, 37 runs, 12 doubles, a triple, 5 homers, 27 RBIs, 5 steals, and he hit .301 with 25 walks, 253 strikeouts. The young kid's got talent. He's 24. Don't forget, he's got Wilson Contreras there to, kind of teach him the way. Wilson Contreras won't be catching this year. He's another cheat code at catcher if you want to grab him a little bit earlier. But you look at the underlying stuff for the young Herrera last year. Looks great for batting average. He hits the ball fairly hard. He does everything at least average. And then there's a lot of stuff that's above average. Like I mentioned, the batting average stuff looks great. Slugging, sweet spot, hard hit rate, bat speed, everything above average. He doesn't chase a lot. He's one of those catchers that, learns from actually being a catcher, learns that plate discipline, learns how to see pitches. I like this young kid a lot. And, the ADP on him is really, really low. As I pull it up, I literally got him with my last pick in this draft. He will, I'm sure he'll be a riser. I'm sure he'll be an ADP riser as we get closer to draft day, but I don't think it's going to get out of control, to be honest with you. Right now, Herrera's coming off the board as the 18th catcher, pick 300. Literally, you can wait on this guy, and I feel like you could still make out. I don't know if I have him ranked that way, but I think there's definitely a chance he finishes the year as a top 12 catcher. If not, you dump them and you grab the next hot commodity. Catcher is a position where there's always at least one or two guys that come out of the woodworks. And I feel like me personally, I've been in leagues where I've kind of just been able to play the waiver wire at catcher until I find somebody that breaks out. I have Herrera currently at 15 at catcher, let's say. So I'm about 3 spots ahead of ADP, but I wouldn't even mind, if you have to jump him around, like let's say if things get, jumped up a little bit with him, you could jump him around, take him then. But Matt, that's all before I get out of control on Herrera, one of my sleepers for this year.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So like, here's the deal, right? Like, I'm getting real sick and tired of drafting Nico Horner and Luis Garcia. It's getting so bad. It's like this.
You gotta be dying over here, brother.
Yeah. And it's not like they're bad players, but like, here's the thing, like there's a different way you could have constructed this team, and maybe you didn't think of it at the time, but you put Mookie Bet at second, and I like the move. It allowed you to capitalize on, getting higher end, outfielders high, and I'm not mad at the Ronald Acuna pick whatsoever. It's a risk, but it's a risk it's willing to take. But say for instance, and just hear me out, you put Mookie at short because he has the eligibility.
He does.
You could have gotten, instead of Burns, which would have sucked to pass on, but you could have passed on him, and you could have went out and got yourself a third baseman like an Austin Riley, or even where did I just see this? A Manny Machado in a little bit later of a round. And you could have done a lot better, I feel, going around that bend. You either could have, those are the 2 third basemen that I feel would have upgraded it. You could have moved Westberg to second, and you would have had a killer team just with that. And then instead of Schwarber, you would have gotten your pitcher of a Cole Reagans or a Garrett Cole and still followed the same pattern, and then just scooped up another outfielder later. Whereas instead of Tyler Glasnow, you could have went and got yourself like a Luis Robert, who was around that pick. He went. I feel like I just saw him around that area. Yeah, Luis Robert went 2 rounds later, and you could have went Westberg around earlier and got Robert, and then you could have been chilling, bro. Like, that team would have looked a lot better than that. And then your UT, I feel like you just could have done better as well. Like, Luis Garcia, yes, he's great, but I don't think he's somebody I want to be sitting on my UT. I don't think he has the upside to be a UT play. All he's doing is he's backing up Mookie Betts and Nico Horner. What's the point of having him going that high if you're not going to have him as a positional guy? At that point, you need to find a higher upside play. So with Luis Garcia, I still would have been fine with you taking Nico Horner for the stolen bases. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, there's other players around there, and then we could start talking about it. Like, right, guys that went after, you could have went and got like a pitcher, and then made your rotation a little bit better, which I don't have much complaints except for Clark, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But like, other bats going around that area, like you passed on like the Pete Crow Armstrongs, the Adolis Garcias, the Jason Dominguez, those guys. And I feel like you could have capitalized on one of those guys, went upside, and had a little bit more of a higher ceiling than what Luis Garcia has than in those guys. And that, I feel, would have made that team just a lot better from a bat standpoint. In terms of arms, if we're living with this, I feel like having Sasaki and Glasnow puts you at a disadvantage. Yes, there's this looming, which I don't understand how everybody can expect these guys to stay healthy, 6-man rotation, which I can't see Dustin May or Tony Gonsolin being able to stay healthy, and, then you look at Ohtani coming back in the rotation, sure, but he only pitches once a week. He will never have a 2-start week. So it's really just like, okay, cool. You're not really mad at it, but having the 2 of them on there, you're going to lower yourself in terms of just upside and things like that, just due to the fact that, one, Tyler Glasnow also doesn't stay healthy, and you already paired that up with a Kodai Senga. You just have a lot of risk there. And then the Clark Schmidt is the one that, like, I feel like since you went so risky, you did not give yourself a safe, kind of like safe floor with having Schmidt. I feel like you should have went a little bit stronger on that. Whereas that's why I said you had a little bit more potential to pick another pitcher instead of, the Garcia in that area, like a Wu, a Flaherty who just got signed back to the Detroit, which I love that signing. You could have got a heel. You could have took a shot on a Sandy Alcantara or a Shane Baz. Like those are all guys, all pitchers that went around there. I feel like would have just been a better spot than Schmidt. There's no safety to that. And then your bench, I look at it. I love the low. I love the East CES. Porter Hodge is still, I like it. I'm going to hold out there in Luzardo. But you pick the Queef, and it sounds like this. And I'm not really a fan. The Queef, I understand, is one of your guys, and we'll just disagree to that, and I will never come to terms with it. But, there is other guys that you could target later in this draft when you got Luis Rengifo. Like, if you're looking at it, guys that went right after, you could have got you could have took the upside of another closer too and got Camilo Doval. I would have been taking a shot on Mackenzie Gore, who we haven't talked about yet this year, but he's going to be on my sleeper list. Cutter Crawford. Then you got guys like, let's see who's going around this area here. Bryson Stott, another, second shortstop that I kind of also like that's going a little bit later that I think will be better than Geef if you're looking for the same kind of player. You have Max Muncy, who has power upside, and, even Michael Busch or Josh Young. Those are the guys I probably would have picked over, and you would have allowed yourself to get in a different position for both, pitching and they feel like a stronger bench spot. But I love the Tyler O'Neill. The outfield is flawless. You did really well. You made up for power, even if Ronald Acuna repeats anything, things like that. But guys, I went a little too long actually, and did not realize where we were at in the show. So coming up next, Dom will be able to rebuttal, and then I'll give a grade, and we'll go from there. Coming up next. All right. So apparently I got hold of the mic and I wasn't letting it go. But yeah. So I'm gonna get that right back out there for everybody to see again. And yeah. So my closing statement is I'm gonna give this team a B. Best grade you've gotten from me so far this offseason.
I'll take it. I'm on the uprise. I'm on the upswing.
Yes. I feel like with this team, like I said, the construction just needs to be thought about a little bit more in terms of security with the risky picks. This isn't like the teams I've drafted where like you're just, it's a full send team, right? Like every day is full send and I'm chugging a beer. Whereas this is kind of like you built yourself and you drafted somewhat conservatively, but at the same time didn't back up the parts where you were conservative to solidify that ground. And that's where like, okay, you left a lot of unknowns. Turn it around and kind of go from there. And also last closing notes. Andres Munoz, I have no faith in. So yeah.
Fair enough. To hop back in here, I'll kind of give a little bit more of the thoughts around I'll kind of bring it home on the thoughts on my team here. So when I look back at the construction of this team, I really like the way that the hitting worked out. I look back at it and the hitting worked out really good. I feel like there's a strong core here between, we know who Mookie Betts is, fairly consistent throughout his whole career, not very injury prone type player. I think if he, plays 150 games, he's locked in for, big season with the Dodgers. Schwarber and Hernandez, we know who they are at this point in the career. They've been around a long time. I think they're solid players. You mix in the upside of Acuna with this team. Like I said, I think he's the guy who wins this league if he's 75 to 80% of who Acuna is. I think that wins the league. Westberg is upside play. We know that, has the potential to be one of the breakout players. So does Vinny P. When I look at my utilities, I don't know. Luis Garcia is just another guy we're going to kind of beg to differ on. 2020 season last year, breakout year, hit 280 plus, had good runs. I don't know if it's a career year for him, but I think that's a good, strong baseline to look at. Yeah, maybe the batting average comes down. I think the Nationals could be better this year, so I think the counting stats could be better. But I like the pairing of him and Tyler O'Neill, right? Because you don't expect Tyler O'Neill to give you much besides a lot of power and RBIs. So I think you take them, you kind of put them together in the utility spot, kind of makes you one kind of monstrous player. And I think unless you're going bat heavy, with a team, or you're kind of just investing in a utility player early on, which I I personally don't like to do, because, at that point, if you're let's say you're going like maybe around 6, 7, or 8, and you're trying to grab a utility bat, you're going against a position that you probably already taken, at that point, because you're putting somebody in the utility. So I'm not a big fan of that. I like to fill up my main roster first, get those big studs at those positions, and then kind of, fiddle around with what's left, because you can play the upside game. I feel like this time, you kind of mix Luis Garcia, who's got the upside, kind of showed it last year. You put him with a Tyler O'Neill, who's very steady, not steady in the sense of being on the field, but when he's out there, he's a big power guy, a lot of RBIs, not really too much else, could steal a base here or there. Then I kind of figure with, that sense, let me take the low Rengifo Strand combo there, and you play that. If between my two utilities and those 3, if I can get 3 of those 5 to hit, I feel like I'm in a good spot. So I like to play that game there. Thoughts on the bats, and then Ivan Herrera. I just really like him upside play if you want to wait on catcher. I build my teams differently when it comes to catcher. Sometimes I'll jump in a little bit earlier. I'll grab like the Austin Wells type, who is about 100 picks earlier than Ivan Herrera. But if that doesn't work out, I'm not mad at Herrera there. And I like Sean Murphy, another name I've drafted a little bit here in the early mock draft season. To jump into the pitching, I love the strong, and I haven't done this yet, right? I love the strong core of the 1-2 with Burns and Castillo. I think they hold it down enough that and once again, it's kind of just a numbers game, that if you get 2 out of the 4 of Glasnow, Sasaki, Senga, and Luzardo to hit, that's 4 strong starting pitchers right there. If you get like 2 of those 4 to hit, and you put them with the Burns, Castillo, and then Matt and I, and if you're an avid follower, if you check us out on Subtext, you'll be just as good as Matt and I are playing the waiver wire with starting pitchers. Matt especially, is very, very good at that. So you jump in there with us, and we could do that. Like I said, if I have 4 really strong starting pitchers, and if on the high end, like you get Glasnow that pitches 170 innings, and Sasaki is who we think he is. If those are the 2 that hit, by all means, this rotation could be lethal. I'm not far off from where you are, Matt. I might give myself a B+ on this one. I like how it worked out for myself here. The closer situation, I need another closer on this team. Team's dying for another closer. I will say that. I hate to walk away with anything less than 3 closers. But no, I have 3. What am I saying?
You do.
Porter Hodge is, to me, he's kind of iffy. But you know what? We've wound up in a spot this offseason, and we haven't really talked about this too much, where a lot of teams are starting to look like they have 2 closers. And the Royals, we didn't even talk about this yet. They signed who did they traded for somebody? Why can't I think of his name right now? To compete against Urseg. Wow, I'm blanking hard, man. I can't even remember who it is. Yeah. Did you say who is it?
Nope.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, they have somebody else over there now in Kansas City too. So I don't like the looks of, all of these timeshares at closers. So we might have to take the Porter Hodges, the Chapmans, the Hendricks, the Tanner Scotts, the Kirby Yates, all those teams where there's 2 closers out there competing. And we kind of just make the best of it until, somebody gets settled or somebody loses their job. And then you kind of just got to be on that waiver wire and doing what you need to do. So, I mean, it is a good team, but, Munoz Romano is a good one too. Hodge, we'll see where things go. So, yeah, B+ is where I'm at. Matt, any other thoughts before we head out of here?
Just lastly, I'm going to circle back to Garcia.
Shoot.
For positional eligibility, that's fine if you're going to start him at second. UT is where I disagree. You need a higher upside play. There's a positive and there's a negative to him. You look at everything he's done and accomplished last year. There's a world and a way where the stolen bases come down because he's not the fastest guy on the field. He's about 45th percentile in terms of sprint speed. And then you look at it, he doesn't create enough hard contact, to really, carry the 20 home runs either, 18 home runs. So if both the stolen bases and home runs kind of come down this season, and even the batting average, which I also expect because he does not walk for the life of him, you're going to have a very bad season. And then you could have had a higher end player to have the depth at UT along, even though you're still, banking on Christian Encarnacion Strand. You should have just gotten a stronger bat there is really just where it is in terms of that. You want to start him at second. If second base busts, whatever. But to have UT where you could have any position there, you want a strong player. So that's where I kind of give you a little bit of of why you got to be. You would have got a stronger UT player. That would have been a B+ without a doubt. But that's the big killer.
With you. You know what? Looking at it, and as you say that, you and I actually normally do that very well. I don't really have, besides Westberg, I don't have enough young upside plays on this team. I feel like it's a lot of guys coming back from injury, and I see what you're saying. It's not a lot, even with the pitching too. There's not a lot of that youth where you get those kind of like big breakout players like a Jason Dominguez or a Jackson Holiday at the utility spot. I think is a kind of nice upside play. And then when you talk about pitching, maybe a Schwellenbach or an Arrighetti or somebody like that in there too, would have made a little bit more sense with a team like this. I see that for sure.
Yeah, like 'tis the season to actually. This is the year to buy in on all the hurt players. You got to place your bets on who's going to be the one that kind of bounces back. A lot of good names coming back that we didn't see last year. But even the guys that bounce back players like an Adolis Garcia, who has stand to have the upside out there, who went around later than where you drafted your boy Garcia and Horner. I just look at if you would have got him in there, the upside just would have been a little bit better. Garcia has a world and a possibility where he finishes the same as Adolis, but does not have the ceiling like Adolis could. And that's the thing. You want to take the big swing there. And, it is what it is. But, another last note is you passed up on Jackson Jobe, who you said everything. You could have got him with your second to last pick. Just throwing shade.
It's my boy.
You missed that on him as well. But anyway, guys, Dom, if you have no less rebuttals, we're going to get out of here. Guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do everything you can to share this show. Look, we're going to get in it. We're going to get you to win your leagues. We're going to be starting to play positional rankings very soon, along with everything else. So again, like, subscribe, comment, rate, review. And when you're done, check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB. I promise you won't be disappointed. With that being said, guys, have a great rest of your day. Peace out.
Sure.